Friday from Europe. I'm just introducing you to this interview with Pierre Jeronimo, who is the Managing Director of Geneva Relocation. Just to let you know, this was recorded on Monday, the 23rd of March. And as we all know, this extraordinary situation we're all living through is changing on a daily basis. So if you do really want to know the exact situation on immigration restrictions and so forth in Switzerland, then please feel free to contact any of our members. And welcome to the next in our series of interviews with Euro members all over the world during what has been an extraordinary few weeks for all of us. I'm delighted to introduce you to Pierre Jeronimo. I'm sure most of you know Pierre. Pierre is based in Geneva in Switzerland, and it's really good to have you with us. Thank you so much for doing this, Pierre. Pierre is also on the executive board of Euro and was very instrumental and helpful in the decisions that we've been taking to support members, obviously including the postponement of our conference at Seville. So thank you so much, Pierre, for being with us. So Pierre, tell me...
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. So what is happening right now in Switzerland?
Well, in Switzerland, the situation is changing every day very rapidly. Today, with more than 6,000 people who have been infected by the virus, at least who have been diagnosed with the virus. It's a lot because Switzerland is only 7 million people, so it's quite huge. In the canton of Geneva itself, it's close to 1,100 people who have been diagnosed, so it's moving rapidly. However, Switzerland is not yet on a lockdown. However, schools, universities are closed. And the Swiss Federal Council, which is the government body of the Swiss Confederation, is recommending for people to stay home, to work remotely as much as people can, and any group of more than 5 people will be fine if they get it. So, it's becoming stricter and stricter. And Geneva is a bit specific because a lot of people, the workforce, they come from neighboring France. And neighboring France it's about 85,000 workers that are crossing the border every day. And France is on a lockdown. So there are huge queues at the French-Swiss borders because the borders are closed. And you can only access Switzerland if you have a work permit. And also they made some special lines for people working in the Geneva hospital so that they can access more quickly to the hospital.
That makes an already complex situation even more complicated, right? That had not occurred to me. Can I just ask one thing that came out? You're right that the proportion of infections against the size of population is very high. But is that because you have very robust testing in place? Are they testing a lot of people? They were testing a lot of people, but they are less and less testing people. You are only tested if you get some serious symptoms of the illness. Unless you don't have that, you're not being tested yet. Okay. Fascinating stuff. And like you say, again, I was just thinking before we started the call, of course, Geneva is, I think, probably the most international city anywhere in the world, right? Probably, yeah. So 44% of the population are foreigners, yeah. That's extraordinary as well. So from that perspective, and from the perspective of all the workers coming in from France, are a lot of the workers who are coming in from France critical workers? Like you said, medical teams, medical staff? Yeah, a lot of them, yeah. Wow. A lot of them. I think it's probably 50% of the employees of the Geneva hospital who are coming from France. Wow. That is a lot. That's huge, yeah. It is. It's just extraordinary how fast things are moving. And obviously, when we started talking about doing these interviews, one of the things that I was saying was, have you got a business continuity plan? Now, clearly, we're a long way down the lane from that. So how did you find implementing your business continuity plan, and how did that work? I think it was quite easy, in fact, because we were confronted with that situation very early. As we do have a lot of Chinese clients, particularly in Zurich area. So back at the beginning of February, we are already confronted with situation of expatriates coming from China. One of our clients is a major Chinese bank, so we had to set some rules in place regarding quarantine and self-quarantine and all that. And in fact, the business continuity plan was very quick to be implemented. It was quite easy to have everybody to work from home because we were quite
prepare from that through technology, from the IT platform we use that is easily accessible from wherever in the world. So that was not that wasn't the difficult part of it, to implement the business continuity plan. What was more probably difficult to do is to explain to the team what has to be done, and also regarding the third parties like the real estate agents, because in Switzerland until very, very recently, people were saying, well, it's just a flu, we should not change our habits, and we were telling them, well, it's apparently not just like a flu, it's worse than that, and there will be decisions by the authorities that are going to restrain how we work. So that was more difficult to explain. I mean, our main focus has always been, the priority, has always been the health of the team. That was, for me, that was really critical, not to expose any of our employees to a potential infection or whatsoever. So really, we've been working very hard. I would say I was fortunate to, I'm fortunate to work for somebody like Francis Doherty, who was a former HR manager in big organizations. So he has been quite familiar with, all these implementation plans. So that was extremely helpful to be able to train at the very early stages the team and say, what should you do? Should you be confronted with a situation where you have somebody who looks like having the symptoms of that illness? What should be the reaction, and how can I be backed up by my management? So that was a bit the way we started to operate.
That's really interesting, because I mean, my next question really is about how your team is coping, but you were thrown in right at the deep end very, very early. And so, as you say, you had to kind of brief your teams on, how do you react in certain situations? How did they cope with that?
They coped very well. Our team members are very senior. So, I cannot say they have been through such a situation, because it's unprecedented. But the reaction was very positive. At the beginning, they say, "Pierre, what are you talking about?" At the very early stages, because when we set the first, procedures, how you deal with that, say, "Are you serious?" Well, we need to be prepared, and then realize that I was not joking. That's very serious, and they're reacting very well in a very positive way. We had the habit to have like the WhatsApp groups, like the Euroboard, where we don't only share some fun, but also some useful information. And we have a virtual meeting every morning. So every morning at 9 a.m., we have that call with the whole team, and everybody can share what they have done today. First question is, how are you and how is the family doing? Because we don't want any of our team members to be left apart, to be in a critical situation that we are not aware of. So it's very important to maintain that the team, the team spirit and the teamwork. The next step is going to be a virtual apéro. The little things that maintain, because it's, as I said, a very unprecedented time. And it's very difficult to cope with that, because we need to say, okay, we are a team, we take the measures. Regarding the Swiss authorities, they are implementing steps to support businesses like us, for example, with technical unemployment, where the government is going to subsidize the salaries and all the little measures. And we are also every morning informing the team what we are doing to maintain employment and to make sure nobody is left on the side of the road.
Thank you for that. Has the Swiss government been quite proactive about reassuring the business community in terms of layoffs? And obviously everyone's terrified, nobody's got any work. So have they been quite proactive? I imagine they have.
I would say proactivity, maybe not. I don't know whether the governments have been very proactive anywhere in Europe. However, the Geneva authorities has been ringing the bell very early, because as you know, Switzerland is a confederation, so you have the local government and the federal government. So there's been a kind of a discussion whether who is supposed to do the first move, like the cantons were waiting for the federal council to make a decision and vice versa. But I would say, they have been very supportive. And one thing that they immediately were reassuring the population and the businesses is that the Swiss economy is doing well, and as as the money to support the business. So they have been from the very beginning, they say, we will be supporting the small and medium businesses, because Switzerland is a lot about that. It's a lot about small and medium-sized companies. That's the DNA of the Swiss economy.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I'm glad to hear that, because again, that's like you say, when you're trying to help your teams cope with the uncertainty around, as you say, this incredibly unprecedented situation. Everybody is different, and some people are very confident, and some people are very nervous, and to keep them reassured as much as you can is terrific. Thank you. That's great to hear. And how are you all staying positive? How are you lifting your spirits?
Well, that is we try to keep the good sense of humor. Rule number one. We know that things go better at the end. We know that in Europe we have the ways, and we see what has happened in Asia, and we see the testimony from our peers in Asia, whether in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in China. That's a big advantage we have of working in the relocation industry, is that we have it's a big family. So within the Eura family, we have the ability to exchange with our peers in other areas. So we know that it's going to be the shorter, the better. But we know that then the economy will go back again, and that we are in a strong economy in Switzerland. So we know that all the mandates are because our the bookings have never been so strong.
Wow.
In the past 2 months. So we know it's only suspended. It's only postponed. But the question is, when it's going to start again, that might be also difficult to cope with. The transferees are reacting in a very positive way. Some have informed us that they do self-quarantine, for example, because they have been in contact with somebody who, has been diagnosed. That's one thing. And our corporate clients have been also very cooperative. Some we didn't hear from them. There was no communication, but the majority of them was very good in communication. We've had that. We are in lockdown, and there was a very good communication. Yeah.
It's interesting how different organisations deal with these things differently, isn't it? You're seeing that from right at the factory floor, as it were. Interesting that, when we're talking about keeping everything going and the amount of bookings that you've had and how busy it's been. One thing that's really come across to me from everyone I've spoken to, and I'm sure you're the same, when I haven't spoken so much in a week as I do at the conference. Constantly. Our industry is so central. When this ends and growth restarts, we have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
it's going to be huge.
And in the meantime, also our obligation is to communicate, because we are dealing with a lot of expats who don't speak French, for example, or German, and we have tried to be as proactive as we could in sharing the information in English from the Swiss authorities. Like telling them, advising them. I'm not talking about medical advice, but telling them where they should turn to if they have an issue, understanding the decisions that are being made, all that kind of stuff. Maybe they know already that. Maybe they're already aware about it, but I think our role is to make sure that information is being spread among the expat community.
Absolutely, and that's fundamental, and again, a great example of how, people like yourself, companies like yours, and people in our industry really, really do know how to try and, support. That's what this is all about. Pierre, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Thank you so much for updating us on what's going on in Switzerland. I'd love to revisit this in a couple of weeks' time, when we're further down the line, and hopefully we will all start to know a little bit more about, what the next month or two are going to hold. But I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
Great to talk to you. Take care, Pierre. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care, you too. Stay safe. Huh?
Bye. Thank you. You too. And your family.